Hey everybody, Sexy Matt the Pharaoh Wizard here. Been a while since I've been by myself on camera in front of the good old green screen, but thought I'd bring it back for this one to do one of my favorite videos I do every year, and that is my predictions for the next 5 DCEU movies. So I mentioned this last year that I love doing the DCEU a little bit more than even doing the Marvel ones, which, side note, I won't be doing this type of video for the Marvel universe this year because, obviously due to COVID, nothing from Marvel came out. But this is one of my favorite to do because this universe is insane. It's all over the place. It's up, it's down. They add movies, subtract movies, do all sorts of crazy stuff. So it's kind of interesting to see what I think is going to come out year to year, and then looking back to go, oh, no, there never was a Green Lantern Corps movie that they promised 2 years back. Those kind of things. So I'm very excited to get into what we have here. And now, before we get into the craziness, let's take a quick look at my hierarchy of the current DCEU. A quick roundup of this year's movies is Birds of Prey. I actually enjoyed quite a lot. I wasn't big on it when I did this video last year, but it turned me. I loved it. And Wonder Woman 84 was fine. A little goofy, but overall serviceable. It was just fine. So that's where we are now. Now, the big news from DC themselves is that they're going to be doing 2 types of movies now. They're going to do their standard DCEU movies that we've seen, the ones that tie together, have characters from other movies, and do the whole cinematic universe style thing. And then something called DC Films, and that's stuff where, like, the Joker comes into play, or the upcoming The Batman, which we'll talk about, where they actually don't tie together in their own. They're in their own little universes. But it is all part of the big multiverse, so we could see crossovers if we're doing cross-dimensional stuff, if that comes up, but generally they're all kind of in their own universe if it's a DC film. So I'll be discussing both of those types of films coming up and where we're at. Now, in the true history of this type of video that I do, of course, DC has announced and re-announced and has a ton of movies in some sort of development. So let's take a quick look of what movies are in some sort of state of development that have not been released yet. Now, which one of those movies are actually going to be coming out? Finally, let's get into it. Let's talk about it.
The Suicide Squad.
So, not so surprising, I did talk about this in my last year video that I did. The Suicide Squad, it looks pretty awesome. Very excited for it. And we got some more information from the DCU fandom. So let's talk about what we know about this movie. So it's going to be directed by James Gunn, who of course did the Guardians of the Galaxy movies and Slither, which is an awesome movie. And we have a returning cast. We have Margot Robbie returning as Harley Quinn, Jai Courtney returning as Captain Boomerang, Joel Kinnaman returning as Captain Generic, and Viola Davis returning as Amanda Waller from the previous Suicide Squad movie. And we have tons of new additions. Here's some of the big ones. We have Idris Elba, who's going to be playing Bloodsport, John Cena, who's going to be Peacemaker, Steve Agee, who's going to be King Shark, Michael Rooker, who's going to be Savant, and Taika Waititi in a yet-to-be-named role. And that's just a small taste. There's a massive cast going on here. Tons of people, tons of characters. There's going to be Polka Dot Man. There's rumors of Arm Falls Off Boy, Rat Trapper, like all sorts. This is going to be a huge expanse to this universe. It's going to be massive. It'll be very interesting to see what happens. Now, here is a description that I dug up. This may or may not be true. Some of these kind of turn up to be true. Some are not. So, just take it with a grain of salt. But this is what I found. Imprisoned convicts from Task Force X are sent on a new sentence-easing mission to the South American island of Corto Maltese to destroy Jotunheim, a Nazi-era prison and laboratory which held political prisoners and conducted experiments. So, big news is it will be rated R, so it'll be kind of the first rated R movie in this universe. And it sounds kind of crazy. My theory is that during World War II, there was a Task Force X that was sent to take this, and they were captured and experimented on. And now a new threat has come up from this base that sends the new Task Force X or Suicide Squad to take care of it. And I think it looks like from a lot of the photos that there's going to be like a death scene or a funeral scene of some sort. So we'll see who that kind of builds up to be. But I think that's going to be the kickoff to this whole thing is someone from the early team that did survive dies, and it kicks off a whole development that they have to go down to this new island and, take care of business. So, kind of a lot of questions, like how's Harley Quinn get captured again? Does she get captured again? Because at the end of Birds of Prey, she was still running around free. Jai Courtney, was he recaptured from Suicide Squad? I don't remember. I think he was, but I don't know. And so, what's Taika Waititi going to play? What's this whole thing about? Is it a reboot? Is it a sequel? I'm pretty sure it's just a sequel, but we will find out very soon, as this is the only movie coming out in 2021. So whereas Marvel was hindered in 2020 due to COVID and had nothing that really came out, DC did get out their movies, but they kind of sacrificed 2021, where a lot of stuff got pushed back due to, production issues due to COVID-19. So we'll see what happens. I'm very excited for this one. I love James Gunn. Almost every single movie he does is a baller, and I love all his movies, so this is going to be cool. Very excited. Next movie.
The Batman.
The Batman. As I mentioned before, this will be in its own universe. I was completely wrong when I said last year about this just being an early version of the Ben Affleck Batman. This is its own universe, its own separate entity, its own thing, and it's part of that DC Films kind of universe. So we did get a trailer for this from Fandom, but it is still filming. They got a lot more to do. So it'll be interesting to see where this goes. What we know for sure is it's, of course, being directed by Matt Reeves, who did Dawn and War of the Planet of the Apes, as well as Cloverfield. It's going to be starring Robert Pattinson as Batman, Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman, Paul Dano as the Riddler, Jeffrey Wright as Commissioner Gordon, and Colin Farrell as the Penguin. And once again, I dug up a description. Once again, take this with a huge grain of salt. I don't know how much this is, actually true, but here's what we got. In his second year of crime fighting, Batman explores the corruption that plagues Gotham City and how it ties to his own family, in addition to coming into conflict with a serial killer known as the Riddler. So a lot going on here. This is a very young Batman. We did see that in Batman Begins. But this is kind of in between that. It's not the start of Batman, but a little bit into his career. So he's not quite, knowing everything, but he's also, not just piecing together things. It looks like a lot of his equipment is a lot more kind of ramshackle, and it's not military grade stuff that we saw in Batman Begins, but more stuff that he's able to piece together using his resources, but also, his Batmobile is just a muscle car that he's super souped up. His suit's a little bit more piecemeal, so it's kind of more he's doing this on his own. He doesn't have backing of a lot of stuff. So that's kind of cool. That's an interesting idea to see that. It looks very gritty, very dark. That'd be kind of cool. The Riddler looks very creepy, if that's what we see in the trailer. Some very cool stuff. I think it's going to be pretty awesome. Kind of excited for this. Robert Pattinson has been good in a lot of other things, so I'm excited to see what he does with this. There has been some interesting drama on set for this. I don't know how that will play out. This is supposed to be part of a trilogy, so we're going to get more of this universe. But again, this is completely separate than all the other movies. So it'll be interesting to see where they go with it and what kind of things they come up with. I'm very excited for this, but I'm also a little bit hindered on Batman. We'll talk about that more in the next movie a bit, but there's just an awful lot of Batman going on, and it seems a little shallow on the DC end or the Warner Brothers end, that we're not getting some other heroes. We don't get a Green Lantern still. A Green Arrow would be awesome. Even diving more into the Bat family with a Nightwing or a Batgirl. You can do some other names, like you can do some Hawkman stuff. We are getting a Hawkman. I'll talk about that in a little bit as well. But it just seems like we're not really diving into the DC universe. It's just more Batman. And, of course, you're going to have the argument that, of course, Batman sells, but it sells because that's the only thing they give us. I'd love to see them kind of go out on the limb and do a little bit more different characters, like Shazam, and Shazam was awesome. So, we'll see what they do with this, but I am overly confident this will be pretty good. Next movie.
The Flash.
Okay, this one makes me laugh. Yes, I am a Flash fan, but I've been doing these sort of prediction videos for 5 years now, and in the very first one I did 5 years ago, I talked about a Flash movie. It was on the slate 5 years ago, and it's still even questionable now. It does have a hard release date, so that's something. But man, this has gone through tons of directors, tons of writers, tons of rewrites. It's a mess. It is in production hell. It'd be interesting to see what comes out of it. But yeah, it's crazy what the Flash movie's going through and why it won't even come out. The Flash is a hugely known character. It's done great on TV. It's just so weird they can't get that out and going. But we'll get to that in just a minute. So what we know fully is that right now it's going to be directed by Andy Muschietti. Yeah, sorry, I butchered her name. He directed the It movies. And the cast that we know is coming is, of course, Ezra Miller's Flash, but Ben Affleck's Batman, and wait for this, Michael Keaton's Batman. So, yeah, a producer said that this film would include multiple superheroes and reset the DCEU. And basically, it's pulling a Flashpoint. So, yeah, thing about that. So, Flashpoint is a highly known, semi-popular Flash storyline where he goes back in time and saves his mom from getting killed, but it ended up resetting the entirety of the universe, and he had to go back and redo it again, and when he came back, everything was completely different. And in the comics world, that was the DC editorial, their reason for starting the New 52 and rebooting the entire universe. Are they going to do that same thing here? I honestly hope not. I think this universe, I mean, it's has its issues, I'm not going to lie, but it stands on its own and has some good stuff. And so if you reboot it, then you have to go like what counts and what doesn't count. And, Aquaman is the highest grossing movie out of this entire universe. Are we just going to discount that now? Or are we going to build on that? Like, what's going to happen here? And the other problem I have with that is Flashpoint is just a popular Flash storyline, but it's also a huge, big adventure, and we've yet to see this Flash by himself. It's weird to jump right into that. It would be like doing the death of Superman as your first Superman movie in your universe. Like, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. This universe is known for doing that, of course, because the death of Superman is in the second movie that they did, but still, it seems like it's rushing too much, and we haven't seen the Flash by himself. I would have preferred to see the Flash in his own encapsulated movie that's kind of like just a fun romp, like an Ant-Man style, not end-of-world stakes, but, Flash getting his footing and doing his thing. Then we can care about him. Then you do Flashpoint, and then it matters. On top of that, multiple issues with this. So the other thing I have is, we've already had a Flashpoint animated movie, and a season of the Flash TV show did Flashpoint for an entire season. We've done Flashpoint. We've seen Flashpoint. Why are we doing Flashpoint yet again? On top of that, they're doing this. It sounds like they're doing this whole like seeing all the universes come together, and you get to see this guy, and it will have, rumors that it'll have Brandon Routh's Superman, and it'll have this guy and that guy and all this stuff from other movies. I'm honestly already burnt out on that, which is weird, but I am, because we already did that with Into the Spider-Verse, all the different Spider-Man. The Arrowverse did their version of Crisis on Infinite Earths last season, did that exact thing, brought in every show, had tons of cameos, was this big old deal. And Spider-Man 3, that'll be out in 2021, apparently sounds like it's doing the same thing, so it's just that again. But this time it's going to be a year later, and I guarantee it's going to be totally played out at that point. But I'm already feeling it. It's like, just do a good Flash movie. Why do you got to do Flashpoint? It's like, sorry, I don't mean to ramble too much on this point, but it's like everyone was, wanting World War Hulk so bad. Let's do World War Hulk. There's other Hulk stories, you know that, right? Like, that one's just popular, but it's not the best. It's the same with Batman. Everyone's doing, do Court of Owls. That's just because that was the most recent big thing that happened. But there's all sorts of tons of Batman stories you can do. We don't have to cater to just do the Court of Owls again. Let's just do that again. Like, there's tons of other stories. The Flash has been around since the 1940s. Let's do some other stuff, man. He's got a huge rogues gallery. Why are you jumping right into this Flashpoint? So, to be honest, I'm not very excited for this. If it does reboot the universe, that'll be weird. If it doesn't, then it's kind of pointless. And do we care about this Flash yet? He was the most annoying part to me of Justice League. And, we don't get a chance to see who he is or what he does before he jump into this big world epic. It's a little funky, it's a little weird. Not digging it, but I spent enough time on that. Let's go to the next movie.
Aquaman 2, Cruise Control.
Of course, as I mentioned before, Aquaman is the highest grossing movie in this entire universe, so of course it's getting a sequel. And this one was on last year's list, so I talked about it, but we got a little bit more info, not a ton, but a little bit. So it's going to be directed once again by James Wan, and of course we'll see the return of Jason Momoa's Aquaman, but also we'll see the return of Ocean Master and Black Manta. And the only info we really have is that it will explore the other 7 kingdoms of Atlantis. So this could be interesting. I'm very excited to see what they do with it. If they build on what they built up in the first Aquaman movie, and kind of where it goes from there. I kind of see this one playing out as like Aquaman is now the king of Atlantis, and he's traveling around to the other kingdoms, kind of, showing his power and kind of taking power of the undersea world. Not in like a crazy way, but just like, hey, I'm the new guy in charge. And, Black Manta, who we see at the end of the first Aquaman, did survive, and he's going to take his revenge on Aquaman. That's kind of where I see this going. I think this one's going to be a lot more underwater. We did get a lot of underwater to begin with in the first one, but I think this one's going to be mostly underwater. I could see them doing getting his hand chopped off and putting a hook on. That's kind of a weird time in Aquaman's life, but it was a thing. And I could see Jason Momoa pulling that off. He looks a lot like that version of Aquaman. So that could be pretty interesting. This is where I don't see the Flash rebooting stuff, because will come out after Flash, and they would have to be really working together with the Flash team if this is going to be like if that reboots things. I don't want to get back into that, but it's really weird. But I think this is very cool. I think it's really funny. We live in a world where Aquaman made more money than a Batman and Superman team-up movie. That is so funny to me. And it should be good fun. I'm excited to see where they go with this and where it goes. James Wan is in great hands, so I think this will be good. Next movie.
Shazam, Fury of the Gods.
So yes, the final movie I'm going to talk about, Shazam! Fury of the Gods. It was announced at DC Fandom that that's the official name of it, and it has a release date. So we know very, very little about this. It's directed by David S. Sandberg, who of course did the last Shazam, and Zachary Levi is prepared to reprise his role. I'm sure Asher Angel will also be coming back. And we'll see where this goes. They left a lot open to interpretation. They left a lot open to where this thing can go. And something worth mentioning now is the Black Adam movie starring The Rock was supposed to come out in 2021, but COVID production issues pushed it back. And I can't see a solid release date anymore. It's kind of all over the place. The info I got currently says it doesn't have a release date, but it is trying to get off the ground production-wise. The reason I mention that is Black Adam is a major player in the Shazam story. He's basically Shazam's, Lex Luthor or Reverse Flash. Like, he is the evil Shazam, his, mirror image, and that's, and that could play into this movie, or maybe Black Adam does end up coming out this year. If it does, this whole video would be messed up. But that's, again, what makes this universe fun. I don't know what's going to happen. We'll see what happens. So does this tie into a Black Adam movie? Does Black Adam actually show up in this movie? I wouldn't think so. They did leave it open to Mr. Mind in the post-credit scene, kind of coming in and maybe messing with Shazam, and that would be really interesting and fun, keeping with Shazam being lighthearted, having a little bug that's incredibly intelligent, pulling the strings behind this next movie would be pretty cool. The Fury of the Gods thing makes me think of them pulling in some more gods, or that's where Black Adam's going to come from. I personally think this one will stand on its own, but mention Black Adam, much like the first one did, where it hinted towards Black Adam. And then we will see the Black Adam movie come out, and then the third Shazam will finally be Shazam versus Black Adam. That's where I think this is going. That would be really cool to see it build up like that. That'd be very exciting and very cool. But we'll see. I love the first Shazam. It was really cool. It's one of my favorites, obviously. It was top of my list. And I'm excited to see where this goes and what happens from there. But I'm very excited for this. So that is the next 5 movies coming out from the DCEU. Lots of stuff going on. I think if the Batman hits, which it probably will because it's a Batman movie, they're going to do more separate kind of solo stuff, which could be cool. We'll see where that goes. I do like this idea of doing 2 types of DC movies because it's a happy medium. Like last year, I did complain that if they go that route of movies that don't connect, that's a little boring to me because I love seeing people team up. I love seeing characters build over multiple movies, and it's easier to do that, without years in between if you have other movies where you can come in and out. I want to see Shazam, mess with Henry Cavill's Superman. I want to see, Aquaman hanging out with Wonder Woman, or, what's this version of the Green Lantern Corps look like? It'd be some really cool stuff that they can do. But it also mixes in with stories that don't have to fit in this universe and adjust things based on other people's ideas. So you can have, basically they're trying to have their cake and eat it too. And I think it might work, because like the Joker seemed like everyone understood the Joker wasn't going to be a new Batman movie. It didn't tie into this universe. It was its own separate thing. So I think they continue to do that. It'd be pretty interesting. So I'm excited for this universe. Let me know what you are excited for in the comments below. Hit that thumbs up if you could. Be very helpful to me. We'll see what I'm doing with my channel this year. We'll do some fun stuff. I have some character breakdowns coming up very soon for you. So stay tuned for that. So I'm Sexy Matt the Pharaoh Wizard. Until next time, hold on to your hold slots.